on to our next speaker. So Amanda Brenner Hannon works for the Santa Clara County FireSafe Council, which I mentioned before is a nonprofit here locally. So you can give your support to them. Amanda is an environmental scientist and an educator with a passion for working with communities to become more resilient to wildfire. She has worked across the West from Colorado to Oregon and California. As the program director for the Santa Clara County FireSafe Council, Amanda is dedicated to sharing knowledge so we can protect our communities and forests from the threat of catastrophic wildfires. So Amanda, I'm going to invite you up here and thank you again for your presentation today.
Thanks, Denise. Tough act to follow. So thanks, Daniel. Just wait for my slideshow to come up. And before that, I just want to mention as well, in terms of the Page Mill project, really proud to hear how well that's gone and all the attention that it's getting today. And thanking our partnership with the district and getting that project completed. It really took a lot of people between our contractors, Los Altos Hills County Fire District, and the FireSafe Council. So we're here today to top off this wonderful event to talk about Zone Zero and Ember awareness. I'm hoping that the concept of Zone Zero is not new to everybody in the audience today, but if it is, then we will cover some aspects of that. So as Denise said, my name is Amanda Brenner Cannon. I am the FireSafe Council Program Director. I have been the director for the FireSafe Council, Program Director for the past 3 years. Following before myself, Eugenia Rendler here was in my position, so big shoes to fill. So I'm going to move to the next slide. As Denise said, I am, my background is teaching environmental science with a focus in wildfire ecology. I studied forestry, environmental science specifically, and I have several years of environmental education under my belt. So that's a big component of what I do at the FireSafe Council. Next slide. And I'm good friends with Smokey Bear. So just really quickly, well, we're projecting going to the next slide.
Sorry, Amanda.
Oh, no worries.
On it. Sometimes it works great, and sometimes there's a little.
Well, I'll just do a little bit of background on the FireSafe Council. I know many of you know who we are. It's been discussed. Denise has introduced us, but we are a nonprofit, Santa Clara County FireSafe Council. We primarily serve Santa Clara County. So we are not a county entity, but as a nonprofit, we partner with County Fire, Los Altos Hills County Fire District. We provide services like the chipping program, home ignition zone assessments, and at the end of the presentation, I'm going to ask you to take action. And I don't think I put it in my slide, but make sure you go to the Los Altos Hills, the district's table, and get information on the HIZ assessment program and sign up for an HIZ assessment. So yeah, we mobilize the people of Santa Clara County, protect lives, communities, and environment from wildfire, working side by side with partners like Los Altos Hills County Fire District. Next slide. So today, what we're going to cover, what is the home ignition zone? An overview of zones 0, 2, and 3, and we're going to focus on zone 0. There's a lot of discussion about the zone 0 recently, and if you do get an HIZ assessment, our trained assessors will come to your home and discuss in more detail and provide a comprehensive report on what you can do to better protect your home from wildfire, with an emphasis in zone 0. We'll also talk about the Ember problem and how embers burn homes. And then again, like I said, how to take action. And Denise, I do have a couple of videos, so hopefully they don't cause us problems. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to warn you. So, but if not, we'll make sure that they're provided to everybody. So next slide. Yeah. So what is the home ignition zone? So 2 factors are what we look at for the home ignition zone. Your defensible space, which is the area away from your actual house. And also the structure's ignitability potential. So what is your home made of? What are the building materials? What do you have around your home? So we look at those two things. And then zone zeros we'll talk about is where those two concepts of defensible space and home hardening come together. Oh, looks like we lost our presentation again.
Get it back up. Share.
All right, we're back up. No,
No, we're not.
we'll start. All right.
Try, one sec, let me see.
Mhm. There we go. All right, so again, the structure's ignitability potential, which is home hardening, and the quality of defensible space. So that's those zones 0, 2, and 3, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. All right, actually, it's not the next slide. So what is home hardening? Measures taken to protect your home structure from the effects of wildfire. So like I said, your building materials, being free from debris and combustible materials. So your, we'll go into that in more detail, your patio furniture, your fences and things like that, and regular maintenance. So if you've got plants, that might create dieback and things like that. That's your home hardening. So it's every measure that you can take to make your home and the first 5 feet around your home non-combustible. So it's that non-combustible zone. We'll talk about in zone 0. Next slide. So what is defensible space? Defensible space is that buffer between your structure and the surrounding area. So adequate defensible space will act as a barrier to slow or halt the progress of fire that would otherwise engulf your property. And we'll go a little bit into fire science to get into some more detail on slowing and halting progress of fire. It also helps to ensure the safety of firefighters defending your home. So the more defensible your home is to be protected from wildfire, you're also creating a situation where firefighters are more productive. They can better support protecting your home and your neighbors' homes as well. And then defensible space is the first line of defense for your home against wildfire. So when you're going into this wildfire journey and this defensible space home hardening journey, that is the best place to start. So getting an HIC assessment, having that opportunity to meet one-on-one with fire professionals and learn what you need to do from your home with home hardening and then out with defensible space. Next slide. All right, so zone 0, zone 2, zone 3. Your zone 0, again, this is where we're going to talk about the most, but I do want to talk a little bit about zone 2 and zone 3. And I imagine most of you don't really have what we would consider a zone 3 in your property. So zone 0 is that first 5 feet, and it is data and science is telling us those are the most critical areas that require defensible space. Start closest to your home to the Ember resistant, and again, we'll go more into Ember awareness. So zone 2, you go from that 5 feet and you move another 35 feet out, or 30 feet out, so that's 35. If you have a deck or an auxiliary unit, like a garage or a barn or something, your 5 feet starts from there. So always look at your property and your structures as kind of a single unit when sort of adjusting what's zone 0 and what's zone 2. And then again, zone 3, you're really kind of getting more into your wildland. Most folks don't have, unless you've got a larger property, a zone 3. And sometimes your neighbor's zone 3 could be your zone 1 or 2. So those do sort of connect sometimes. All right, and this image, you can see right there, the zone 0, the first 5 feet, extends past that, not the house structure, but the actual decking. Zone 2, which is that intermediate zone, and zone 3, which is that extended zone, and there are some other distance and spacing characteristics here shown in this image. Next slide. All right, so the first 5 feet of defensible space, what is zone 0? It's where home hardening and defensible space meet. As mentioned, the home ignition zone are those 2 factors, your home ignition or your defensible space and your home hardening. So zone 0, you're looking at a little bit of both. When you're doing zone 2, it's more vegetation management, and zone 3 is also vegetation management. But that zone 0 is that critical space where your home hardening and your defensible space meet. So it's a little bit of both work that need to be done. So many of these principles will have also been discussed in the morning FAQs that Ryan did. I think that was around 11 o'clock. All right, next slide. So I kind of touched on this a few slides back, but the IBHS is the Institute for Business, the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. A lot of the data for home hardening and defensible space comes from IBHS. It says right there, it is an insurance funded research institute. So there's that connection there as well. But they tell us that keeping the first 5 feet of your home free of combustible materials will greatly reduce the risk of losing a home or structure due to wildfire. Not a guarantee, but greatly reduces it. So again, the science is there, not just from IBHS, but other institutions doing this kind of data, like NIST will also say that when you're going in your wildfire prevention journey, starting at the home with your zone 0, your home hardening, your defensible space. Next slide. So I just want to touch, I think we all know what the wildland-urban interface is, but as Andrew said in the last presentation, it's where our communities meet the wildlands. So it's not so much a fire problem, so much it is we're living in an area that is fire adapted, that is fire, that requires fire. And you can see that when you live in an area that's prone and requires fire and your homes are there, just like in the photographs in the last presentation, that's your wildland urban interface. So I don't think I need to go in that too much more detail. Next slide. So ecological importance of fire, as I just said, California is not just fire adapted, but fire dependent. Some species rely on it. Again, in the last presentation, the coast redwood was discussed. It eliminates small weak vegetation, encourages stronger vegetation to thrive. It puts nutrients back into the soil, and it encourages new plant growth. So if we've got good ecologically benefit fire on the ground, hopefully it's not encouraging those invasive species also that were discussed in the previous presentation. So just a small snapshot on why fire is important for our ecosystems. Next slide. So this talks a bit more about this presentation, living with fire and not living against fire. So what can you do as a person who lives in the WUI, make your home and your community safer from wildfire? So just quickly, again, some of that fire science. We've got ground fire, surface fire, and crown fire. So when we're working to create defensible space, specifically, we are changing the behavior of that fire. So when it does move closer to your home, it's not as intense. So if we're looking at, say, for instance, the CZU fire, where there was fire moving through the ground, if it's moving closer to your home, you want to have created a situation where your defensible space is such that it brings it to the ground and reduces the intensity. So one, arch flame lengths coming to your home, but 2 is less intense, less hot. Next slide. So that's surface fire. Fire triangle, fire needs oxygen, heat, and fuel. Homes are fuel. Your trees around your home are fuel. Your landscaping is fuel. Those are the things that you can change to reduce what fire needs to grow near your home and your neighbors and your community. Next slide. So just really quick, types of heat transfer. And the reason I want to mention this is because we're going to talk about some ember awareness. So what most people see as dangerous, it's the flames. And I just mentioned crown fires too, right? So flames, radiant heat, so that heat that's coming, not the direct flame, but the heat that's coming from the fire, and then embers or firebrands. Next slide, please. Just really quickly, direct flame, as mentioned, it burn combustible materials, especially materials that have become more vulnerable from radiant heat. Fire, you always hear that fire moves faster uphill. That's because it is treating or curing or drying out the materials ahead of it. So that's that radiant heat. The radiant heat is pulling moisture out. So when it gets to direct flame, it's going to become more combustible. Again, radiant heat is that preheating of fuels, and it's that's coming off the direct flame. Next slide. Radiant heat also is important when you're thinking about defensible space because it is heating up and curing things like the glass in your windows. So it's important to have double pane windows. It's heating up your siding, your plants live plants might be getting dried out and dying in that as well. And then it's becoming really good fuel and tinder for embers or flame lengths if that's the type of fire that's moving toward your home. So let's talk about embers. Most homes in a wildfire are lost to embers. So embers can travel, they used to say up to a mile, and now we're seeing several miles. So it depends on the speed of the wind, the direction of the wind and things like that. But embers, the fire doesn't necessarily have to be next to your home. It can be a couple of miles away. And if the wind direction is in the speed of wind is just right, it can force those embers to your home. And yeah, so ignite home directly or fuel on home. We'll look at some videos here soon that shows a little bit of an example of that. The embers will also gather in areas that wind carries leaves. So if you're at your home, say your front door, and you notice that you've got a lot of wind or pine needles and leaves in those corners, well, that's exactly where the wind is going to drive embers as well. So if you're not cleaning up those areas, you've got leaves, you've got little pockets of fuel for embers to ignite as well. Can cause fire to start well after the fire has passed by. So if the fire has come through your community and it's been gone, if you've got embers that have landed in vulnerable spaces on your home or your garage or your car, it can take a while for it to really kind of grow a fire. It could be days after the fire. So you could come back to your home after the flames have gone by, and you could still potentially lose your home to embers. Next slide, please. All right, let's try a video. Let's see if this works. If it doesn't, then I can just do a quick synopsis of it, and I'm sure that the district can provide links.
And this is in PDF, I'd have to go to.
Oh, you're right, you know what? Then let's just do a brief synopsis, okay.
Okay.
My apologies. Didn't plan for that ahead of time. So this is Dr. Jack Cohen. He has been one of the primary researchers of wildfire and defensible space for the U.S. Forest Service and other details for decades. And this really speaks to why the human behavior and why we feel that the wildfire flames are more dangerous than say the embers. And that's because when we feel that radiant heat, or we know what fire feels, we have a human idea that based on the burning feeling, that it is more dangerous, right? So the intensity of heat that it takes to burn our skin and feel hot for us is a lot less than the intensity of heat required to burn down a wooden structure, for instance. So this video touches on sort of the human psyche and that component of why we think that flames are going to be more destructive than, say, embers. And as I said in the previous slide, more homes burn in an ember situation than necessarily to be direct flames from the fire. Next slide. So with that being said, and that understanding, we can look at, and again, these are all things that we look at in the HIC assessment. So the first 5 feet of your home is the most important. Keeping the area closest to building structures and decks clear will prevent embers from igniting materials that can spread the fire to your home. So again, these embers can travel miles from the actual fire. So looking at, actually, if you go to the next slide, I've got, this is a little bit bigger. We'll skip, look at the next one, we'll skip that one. All right, so the other video, I think most of us have seen it, is that IBHS testing facility where they're throwing embers at 2 homes. One is been hardened and the other one has not been. So you can really see how those embers affect the 2 different structures. So again, playing into the home hardening and the defensible space in those first 5 feet. So I think one that people don't really see so often is the trash cans. If the trash cans ignite, that's, you know, plastic is a really nasty thing once it's set on fire. So if your trash can is open, they can get in there and burn your trash, ignite that plastic, then you've got a really awful chemical fire. Your chimneys, we often look at spark arresters for that. The eaves of your windows, and I mentioned the front door, all of those areas that wind will drive your leaves. It'll also wind driven those embers into those areas. The bushes, really anything that you would have in that first 5 feet that could be combustible or ignite due to embers. And I like to look at it as maybe a tiny campfire. What would you put in your campfire to burn it? And if some embers go into that, is it going to ignite? Next slide. Okay, so again, zone 0, that non-combustible zone, the first 5 feet. We want to home harden, look at the materials, look at the construction materials, your and keeping it clean. So needles, leaves, your plants, your patio furniture, your landscaping. We use the terminology hardscaping. So using things like, instead of bark mulch or even chipping from a chipping event, do gravel, pavers. I think pavers are really good if you've got a lot of leaf and needle litter. But the gravel, it can kind of get stuck in there. With pavers, it's a little bit easier to maintain and keep clean. But no combustible bark mulch. And I know some people like to use like that rubber tire mulch and stuff. I can't speak too much of it, but it can sometimes be problematic. But hardscaping is really important. Just removing all dead and dying plants, weeds, debris, things like that. And removing all branches within 10 feet of the chimney or stovepipe outlet. When you've got trees, even if they're not in that first 5 feet, they're probably overhanging, and that creates a situation where leaf and debris is collecting by your windows, on the ground, anywhere, and then you're gonna have to clean those really into your gutters and things like that. So removing limbs that are overhanging houses is very critical to creating defensible space in your zone 0. And relocating firewood and lumber to zone 2, so that beyond that 30 feet, it's really enticing to have your firewood closer to your house because it makes it easier to get to. But science suggests moving that off because, again, it's going to, or creating some sort of fire shed can be useful as well. But those embers are going to get in there, and that's your wood that you're trying to set. Anyways, we know that's combustible. And then finally replacing the combustible fencing, gates, arbors attached to the home, the lattice, whatever. There's very strong science that shows that those fences, those wooden fences, are going to be a conduit to burning homes. And yes, embers can burn fences as well. So even if you create a block with using some metal fencing between your wood and your home, that can be of benefit as well. Next slide. All right, so again, just that structure protection, hardening your home. So having vents so that embers aren't going to fly into your attic space as readily. Your roofing material, I've seen less and less shake shingle through the years, but some older homes still have it. It was the style for a long time. They also create some shingles now that look like shake shingles, but are not. Your siding, mentioned earlier, making sure your windows are double paned. Older windows tend to be single pane. And that is more to do with radiant heat than it is to do with embers, just because the radiant heat is so much, especially for larger windows. The single pane, if that breaks or fails, if you've got a double pane, then you'll have more glass to. If the glass breaks, then that creates a situation where embers can enter your home directly. And then just continual maintenance around the home, both with your construction and your defensible space. Next slide. What do you keep in your home? We talked about, and this is a little bit structural and a little bit defensible space. So your fences, your decks, that's more structural. What do you keep on your in that first 5 feet? I've seen a lot of the news recently too, where they're saying the state of California is making it illegal for you to have patio furniture and hot tubs next to your house. And what they're really saying there is they're looking at that first 5 feet. What materials do you have within that first 5 feet on your decks that could be combustible? That could be a potential area for failure if embers land there. So, so your patio furniture, and and I'm sure they're making them even better, a little bit more fire safe. But if you do have these things and a fire's coming and you're planning evacuation, throw them in the house, throw them away, into your defensible space, zone 2 or something, but really looking critically at what you have in those first 5 feet and that critical zone 0 that is combustible. And not just combustible, a lot of these have plastics in it. So the plastics are also going to create, if they burn, they melt, they're going to create toxic air, toxic smoke. And that's, one house to the next house to the next house, and that really collects and creates a problem for everybody who's experiencing this wildfire smoke. All right, next slide. And I mentioned barbecue propane on there too. Everybody, your propane tanks, your barbecue propane, just be thoughtful about what is on your property and your evacuation plans. And again, during an HIZ assessment, we can look at these things and talk about what your best path forward is for prepared and defensible. Mentioned again, hardscaping. Here are some photographic options, and I know not everybody has a green lawn, but you can do things. And I was also kind of careful too with hardscaping around live trees. Depending on the tree, it actually could create a situation where those root systems are exposed to more heat. So it's very situational to home. But you can use things like pea gravel, pavers, river stones, and things like that to, we mentioned a lot about evacuation routes and removing fuels, creating fuel breaks. This type of hardscaping can create those fuel breaks as well. If you do have a lawn like that, keep everything lean and green. A lawn like this is not going to burn readily, but it's also maintenance. Next slide. Okay, so just kind of wrapping up zone 0. What you can do, how can you take action? I've mentioned the home ignition zone assessment several times. Again, visit either the FireSafe Council booth or the district's booth, get information, get on their website, and sign up for an assessment. There's also a wonderful rebate program, so if you take action, there are some financial incentives to help support your progress as well. You can continue to participate in events with your FireWise community if you have one. If you don't, please meet with Denise in the back, and she can provide you some information on FireWise USA and how you could get started. And then Los Altos Hills County Fire District and FireSafe Council events like the ones you're attending today. You can take steps learned from today's presentation. Again, I really encourage you, if you've not already had an HIZ assessment, to do one. And just really, really hard. Zone 0 is the most important, most critical. Utilize the resources you have in your community, including the ones that there's so many resources. Santa Clara County is so robust with resources to work on wildfire preparedness, because we do know, as described in the last presentation, while wildfire, especially large events, aren't a huge occurrence in this area, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the work we do now prepares us for that then. And then finally, I've got a couple more slides. I just want to plug the FireSafe Council's ambassador program. It's a volunteer program that connects you with more of these opportunities and resources. So I will, and this will say, start by hardening your home and work toward defensible space, starting in that zone 0. And be Ember aware. I do want you to see those videos because they're very impactful. So hopefully we can get those links to everybody. And then we'll go to the next slide and I'll tell you a little bit more about what the ambassador program is and how you can get involved. And again, for more information, I don't think Andrea is in here, but Andrea Constantine is our ambassador program manager, and she's outside at the FireSafe Council table with information and ways for you to get started and sign up. Next slide. All right, so what is a neighborhood ambassador? So neighborhood ambassadors are dedicated, trained volunteers equipped with the knowledge and skills necessary to lead wildfire preparedness efforts in their communities. They expand wildfire education and risk reduction activities in communities across Santa Clara County. And they connect their neighbors with important resources and knowledge to better be prepared for wildfire. And it is really connected with the FireWise USA program. So again, if you want more information on FireWise and how to get support, Denise will help you out there. So next slide. All right, if you want to get involved, continue to get involved, because I think if you're here, you're already doing a lot. As mentioned, visit the FireSafe Council table, meet with Andrea, and she can get you signed up. And this is, again, this is a countywide program through the FireSafe Council, so you can connect with other FireWise communities that are doing FireWise work, and not just with Saltus Hills, but Saratoga, Cupertino, and across the county in communities that have wild Louis influence. You can participate in our first training session, which is to be determined. And we have had some other training workshops for FireWise, and we'll have more. And like I said, you can join other ambassadors across the county. We'll have meetings, continued workshops, and potential work days as well. And those are opportunities to meet other folks throughout the county doing this work. You can troubleshoot issues, problems, and gain better understanding. Maybe you have some good ideas of what to do around your home and your community to be more wildfire prepared. So that is a little bit on the ambassador program with the FireSafe Council, and I hope to see some of your faces again soon.